What's going on, everybody? Thank y'all for tuning in. We got a great show lined up on tonight. So the sun is out. We're moving past the snow, hopefully, and I'm ready to fire up the grill soon. But let's get into tonight's show. First up, we got poet, activist, and organizer Naira of BLACC Rising and the TRiiBE's Editor-in-Chief and co-founder Tiffany Walden in the building. And later up, we got founder and graphic designer Rachel Gadson of the ILA Creative Studio and BLACC, plus writers, authors, and podcast host Jennifer Keishin, Armstrong, and Zakiya Dalila Harris are going to be stopping by. So don't move. Stay tuned. It's your boy Rome J. We Were Chicago starts right now. So the news don't sleep, everybody. You know what that means. It's time for the Rome J Report. And here with me to talk about arts and entertainment news is poet, activist, and organizer Naira of BLACC Rising and the TRiiBE's Editor-in-Chief and co-founder Tiffany Walden. How y'all doing today? What's going on, ladies?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
What's going on, Naira? I'm great. Thanks for being on the show today. Tiff, what's going on?
I'm just trying to say everybody has been on here. Except me. I'm excited to be here.
Right? It's about time. Thanks for joining us, Tiff. Of course, you're going to get on here eventually, but nice to have you most definitely. So the Rome J Report, Naira, I know, Tiff, you know, but the Rome J Report is where we talk about Chicago arts and entertainment news, but with our own little spin on it. Okay, so y'all ready, ladies?
For sure.
Yeah.
All right, for sure. So pro golfing GOAT Tiger Woods, affectionately known as Woo Woo, was seriously injured in a single car crash in California on Tuesday. Now, Woods suffered significant orthopedic injuries to his lower right leg and ankle. Following the accident, Tiger went through several hours of surgery. He is awake and responsive. On Wednesday, yesterday, an update on Tiger's condition was posted to his Twitter page. And I'm happy to hear that he's doing okay. We at the TRiiBE are wishing Tiger a smooth recovery. And I don't know if y'all heard, but there's a proposal out there to merge two golf courses in South Shore and Jackson Park. Tiger Woods' design firm was tapped to make those upgrades. No word on when or if this will still happen. It's been almost 5 years since it was announced. But ladies, have y'all ever been golfing? Do y'all golf? Or is that too hoity-toity, Naira?
I wanted to golf when I was like a shorty, but nah.
I think it's Enchanted Castle and just putt golf or like Top Golf, but I never.
Yeah.
Of course. So it's dope to have a black GOAT in golf, which is a predominantly white sport. Shout out to Tiger. We hope he has a speedy recovery. And of course, welcome back to the one and only Bobby Shmurda. Had to hit my little Shmurda 1-2 right there. So Brooklyn rapper Bobby Shmurda, of course, was released from prison on Tuesday after serving 6 years for conspiracy and weapons possession. Now imagine being picked up in a jet after doing a bid. Migos member Quavo did just that for Shmurda, and they've been friends and they've been locked in Bobby's whole bid. And I know it must have felt good to come home even during the middle of a pandemic. So everybody throw your hats in the air and welcome Bobby back home. I'm sure new music is coming and we'll be waiting for it. And it must be nice to be rich. Have y'all ever been on a private jet?
No.
Not
yet.
I'm not there yet.
Yeah,
Right.
hopefully them days is coming. The closest I've been to a private jet has been one of them small Spirit planes. So it's close. You know what I'm saying? Well, y'all, it's over. Kim Ye is no more. Kim K filed for divorce from Chicago rapper Kanye West after 6 years of marriage. Now, it's been some hints at divorce for a couple of months, and now it's finally official. As y'all know, Kim and Kanye are parents to North, Saint, Chicago, and Psalm. A few months back, we saw Kanye, my man's peeing on Grammys. We've seen him tweeting, ranting about his in-laws and his contract situations. So I got to know, what are y'all thoughts on this split? And I'm always interested to see what music follows after a life-altering situation like this. And only time will tell what Kanye has in store for the world following something like this. Tiff, what do you think about the split of Kimye?
I mean, he did give us 808s after, he went through some terrible things back in the day. But I just hope he's okay. Like, Kanye hasn't been the most stable person as of late. So I hope that this doesn't rock him too much and, that he's able to be healthy.
Naira, what about you? Do you have anything about Kanye you want to say?
I hope he's much happier. I hate to see just all the crazy stuff that was going on social media. The post that he was making kind of broke my heart a little bit, especially because I grew up really rocking with Kanye. So I hope he's happier. I hope he's free.
Yeah. To go to Tiff's point, I think we got 808s right after his mom died, which is unfortunate. But Kanye usually puts out really fire music when the heat is on. So only time will tell. Hopefully we get some really dope vintage Kanye out of this situation. It sounds selfish, but we'll see. So y'all, earlier I was dead serious about firing up that grill. And we got a 40-degree weekend coming. Y'all know in Chicago, 40 degrees feels like 70. Yeah, that's how it felt the other day. It felt just like that. The next few weeks, the Chicago Lakefront, the parks and the indoor swimming pools will be open again. The Chicago Park District dropped the news on Tuesday, and it's been 11 months now since the city shut down. And of course, we still need to keep ourselves and each other safe when we're outside. So be sure to keep that in mind, guys. And let me know when y'all trying to go to the lake, man, because I'm with it. Naira, Tiff, are y'all excited to be outside? I'm excited for outside to be open again.
Definitely. I wore shorts the other day. I'm ready. Ooh. It's warm. It's summertime.
Ooh, Naira, this is extremely white of you, shall I say? No, but it's all good though. Tiff, what about you? Are you excited for outside?
I can't wait. I'm trying to get to the lake, trying to sit on the beach, trying to get to some body of water. It's been too long, so I can't wait.
Yeah. Awesome. Outside open again, guys. Stay safe. Mask up if you see some strangers, all right? So tonight's show is all about Black writers and creatives. How fitting is it that the next quick hit is about Ida B. Wells, a Chicagoan and pioneer of investigative journalism. The Ida B. Wells Scholarship Fund is a new scholarship fund at the University of Illinois Chicago, UIC, of course, that was created to help Black high school students receive their college degrees. The scholarship fund will be used to help incoming college freshmen with housing and other educational expenses. Now, this scholarship is eligible for students that are graduating from 20 partner schools in underserved communities. So shout out to the family of Ida B. Wells. What a beautiful thing to do. Now, details about the scholarship are in the works, and y'all can follow UIC for updates that are coming soon. Tiff, as a journalist, what does Ida B. Wells mean to you, please?
I mean, I probably wouldn't be a journalist without her trailblazing work, and the tribe certainly probably wouldn't be here. So, we're a direct legacy of her work, and that being a mix of activism and journalism. And I mean, she was born into slavery, survived, was freed by Emancipation Proclamation, and then started her own newspaper to report on lynchings and all the injustices that white people was doing to Black folks back then. And all that is before the Chicago Defender stuff. So she's a big influence on my work, the tribe's mission, everything. So, we wouldn't be here without her.
Most definitely. Anything to add there, Naira?
No, yeah, we definitely wouldn't be here without the work that people did before us, and everybody's always we're not our ancestors. I might not even be as hard as our ancestors, honestly speaking. But yeah.
Most definitely. So in addition to being an activist and organizer, Miss Naira here is a poet and an alum of Louder Than a Bomb. Last year, Naira was a finalist in a poetry slam. What and who inspired you to write poetry? Please, Naira, the floor is yours.
Yeah, actually, my sister is who inspired me to write poetry. When I was in 5th grade, she did Brave Voices. I think her high school team won LTAB. This was I don't know, maybe 2007 or something like that. But I would watch their stuff and the work of her peers on YouTube and stuff like that. And then I started writing. And then I did LTAB for the first time when I was in high school, when I became the captain of our poetry team. And just getting into that world of Black poetry, getting around other artists, going to YCA's wordplay and like going to open mics and stuff like that just like really like transformed how like I saw myself as an artist. I never thought like poetry was a thing that like was like a tangible thing that people were doing until I was in a room full of poets. So yeah, I'm definitely like inspired by the work of the people that I know, that I actually know, and the work of the people that are around me.
Most definitely. And we're so happy to have you on with us here today. And hey, Tiffany, y'all has a crazy pen game. She's our editor-in-chief now. Tiff, take us back to when you first started writing. What was it for you?
So I didn't grow up in a house with like siblings or anything like that. It was just me. I was the baby, and me and my grandma. And so between listening to them talking on the porch and like learning like oral storytelling from them, and like music. When I was a kid, I used to like climb on top of the armchair and like try to play my CDs and play my mom's CDs and just kind of be in my head and in my imagination. So when I started discovering like Vibe magazine and Double XL in the Source, along with like watching journalists do like interviews with musicians on VH1 and BET and stuff, like I knew that that's what I wanted to do. Like I wanted to tell, stories about my Blackness that I wasn't seeing on mainstream, TV and news and media. And that's kind of where like writing started for me. And then in high school, it kind of just went to another level when my teachers discovered that I could write.
There we have it, and a star was born. Naira and Tiffany are going to stay on with me to talk a bit more about writing with our next guest. Thank y'all for joining me for the Rome J Report, though, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think we're still waiting on Rachel, and that's just fine because next we got the forecast, y'all. Okay, now let me go ahead and flip to that. Okay, so we can't end the month without a new playlist from your boy Rome J. Let's jump straight into that. First up on the forecast will be Lil Zay Osama featuring G Herbo. Now, guys, Lil Zay Osama is back. And here to remind us, he's not going anywhere. We'll be straight as a tale of the harsh reality Zay has had to face while growing up in Chicago. Now, last week, Zay dropped his second project entitled Trench Baby. This project follows his 2019 project called The Hood Bible and features appearances from Herb, Doughboy, Jackboy, and Lil TJ. It's a whole bunch of boys in that lineup. Trench Baby is available now on all streaming platforms. Now Lil Zay Osama, along with the DCG youngsters Shun and B-Sav, are also featured on the very first single by No More Heroes, and that's entitled Phonem Grave. DCG been rolling ever since that. He think he wrong. Ate the beat too soft. Yeah, they've been West Side Connection there. They've been rolling ever since that song last year. And Chicago duets are really hot right now, considering we got DCG, Heavy Steppers, and I even heard Herb and Bibby got a project coming out soon. We've all been waiting for that. So make sure you guys check that out. That's No More Heroes, DCG, and Lil Zay Osama, Phonem Grave. Now, I've been seeing ladies dig on this next song, so I decided to add it. And honestly, I like this song too. That's Coi Leray featuring Lil Durk, No More Parties. And no, Coi Leray is not from Chicago. Excuse me. She's from the East Coast. She's actually the daughter of Benzino, who we all know from Love and Hip Hop, and he's from Boston. But anyways, this song is dope. It's an uplifting song with a positive message. The chorus goes, I'm on to better things. I'm only doing things that's going to make me elevate. Only want people around that's going to make me better. The piano play in the background is joyful and happy. And then Lil Durk makes his appearance and puts the cherry on top of a song that eerily sounds like an old Durk and Dej Loaf duet. Now, Coi sounds exactly like Dej Loaf, and I'm not the first person to make that comparison. So Coi Leray featuring Lil Durk, No More Parties remix. Make sure you guys check that out. That's a bop right now. All right, next up for this week's playlist, I want to go ahead and put the spotlight on Corporate. He's got a song called Letter to the Members. And although Corporate is known for a sketch comedy and hit series Black Chicago Be Like, he continues to, consistently drop music and, good music. So this video was actually shot outside the Hampton House. And shout out to Corporate for always shedding light on things that matter. So make sure you guys check out Corporate, Letter to the Members. And he also just dropped that Black Chicago Be Like Part 95. So make sure you guys check that out as well. Funny as hell as always. On God. All right, so Lil Blessing is one of my favorite artists out of the Shy. Everybody, if you know me, you know this. We featured him on the Forecast a few years back. And since Blessing has stamped his name in Chicago's underground rap scene, and we couldn't be happier. I mean, now we're still waiting on the heavily anticipated Out West love songs, which Blessing has been promising us for like 2 years now. But in the meantime, we'll enjoy these singles, which he seems to have no problem dropping. One of the most clever rappers in the city, I think, right now. Some of the songs are just flat out hilarious at that. And this song is definitely entertaining, so make sure you guys check out No Promotion by Lil Blessing. And make sure you guys check out the rest of my Forecast playlist. It is live right now, the Forecast playlist of the week, to see what's on the radar. Some good artists there. And all right, I believe we have Rachel is in the house. So what's going on, Rachel? How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. So hold on. So Chicago is a city full. Let me give you my intro, Rachel. Chicago is a city full of talented Black creators, but sometimes it's challenging to connect, especially during our current times. Rachel Gadson, founder and graphic designer and co-founder Troy Pryor, recently launched the new digital platform BLACC to unite Black artists across disciplines to provide opportunity, funding, and community for working class artists. Rachel joins me. Rachel, what's going on? Thank you for joining us. So Rachel, before we learn more about BLACC, please just walk us through, your background in art and, why did you decide to pursue art as a career? Please. Thank you for joining us. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. My love for art really stemmed early on in my life. I went to a CPS school called Dixon Elementary in Chatham's neighborhood. I had an excellent art teacher, and it was from there that I just had this passion to create things, mainly in illustration and painting. So I am a painter and graphic artist. And then journeyed through like going to college. I studied art in Florence, Italy. I also studied in South Africa, Johannesburg. And I came back to what I thought would be an open economy for graphic designers and artists for myself here in Chicago, but found that we were in the middle of a recession. A lot of the advertising agencies here were not hiring people that looked like me. And so I decided to start my own company called ILA Design Solutions at that time, freelancing as a graphic artist. And from there, my trajectory just shaped into wanting to be in these spaces where we're not constantly, present or appreciated, and now wanting to give that or allow for others in my community to have that same access, because it was so tough for me initially getting into that career path. And so that kind of is my quick walkthrough of how I fell in love with art. It was at Dixon, and then it kind of trickled all the way through my work.
So so before you started the company, just walk us through some of those challenges, like right after college. Was it challenging finding work? And were those challenges what initially inspired you to start ILA and BLACC?
Yeah. So the weird part was I thought that having all of these great internships under my belt, like I mentioned, I was able to study abroad, fortunately, twice. And I'm thinking like, man, I have international exposure now. Y'all gotta hire me. And it still was like no
Studied
reception.
abroad where? Once in Italy, right?
Yes, Italy, okay. And then Cape Town and Johannesburg. And so
nice.
Came back, moved back to Chicago. I attended Florida A&M University. When I graduated and came back home, like I mentioned, we were in a recession. And so a lot of agencies were not hiring. From there, when I couldn't get a job, I created my own. And then I also paint, and I also did graphic work that I wanted to showcase. And that was another great area here in Chicago where there weren't a lot of spaces for Black women artists to exhibit their works. And so myself and a good friend of mine, Sharnae Graham, started Swan Day Chicago here 7 years ago, where we celebrated Black women artists of varying disciplines and had this celebratory event to honor and showcase them. That really was the seed that planted itself for all of the work that I now do with ILA, and now that I want to do with BLACC. I'm all about celebrating and elevating and uplifting Black artists, just because it's such a concentrated group and varied group of people that don't get, in my opinion, enough appreciation. I think that what society fails to remember is artists are the blood and the veins of all of this. Like, without art, our world would be very bland. Musicians, painters, songwriters, poets, every facet of art gives life to the world that we're living. And I just feel like, especially for Black artists, we don't get as much reverence as we should, because we are the innovators and we are the creatives and we are the forward progressive thinkers. And we just don't have enough spaces to feel celebrated, and also to feel connected. And that really is what has inspired my passion with ILA, and also now this new tech product, this new tech app, BLACC, to connect artists to resources, to each other. Because sometimes, we just need each other to get our projects finished. Sometimes a songwriter just needs an engineer, or a graphic designer needs a videographer. And so BLACC seeks to be that place where we can connect with each other as artists and also gather those resources we need.
Most definitely. Look, to quote one of my favorite rappers, Wiz Khalifa, he says, artists have the spark. Now, the labels have the millions of dollars, and they can manifest that spark and turn it into millions of dollars.
Right.
But it's the artist who has the spark. And it seems like what you're helping artists to do is you're actually helping them manifest that spark without the major corporations. So that's definitely dope.
Yeah.
Tell us what BLACC, BLACC, stands for, and what you hope this app will do for Chicago creatives, please, a little bit deeper.
Yeah. BLACC stands for Bold Leaders in Art, Culture, and Community. Really, I want BLACC to be this ecosystem of connection and resources. I want all Black artists and creatives in Chicago to connect on BLACC, to work with each other, so that, like, to your point, we can become each other's resource. Of course, money and funding and other opportunities are valuable and valid. But like I mentioned before, sometimes you just need that similar, like-minded individual to help push and elevate the work that you're doing. And so our app is centered around providing 4 categories of resources. So we load weekly different money resources. So whether that be grants, funding opportunities, sabbaticals, things that you could do to elevate and leverage accelerator programs, elevate the work that you are doing. The second category is opportunity. So that might look like gigs. Somebody's looking to hire a musician for a show. So we load those on the app. And then we also have spaces, safe spaces for Black artists to create their works. So whether that's a photo studio, a recording studio, etc. And the last category is, I said space, opportunity. Sorry, my mind is going fast. And money, info. So any pertinent information. So it's things like you guys share, like the tribe shares about arts and culture in the community, we also direct people to on BLACC. So really, it's just this centralized place for people to organize their creative pursuits. Whether your pursuit is money, whether your pursuit is another like-minded individual, we want you to come to BLACC to organize what your creative journey should look like, and so for you to own it.
So and that's wonderful. But your partner Troy, I mean, we wish he could be here with us.
Yeah.
He's not available right now. But tell us a little bit more about your partnership with Troy, please.
Yeah. So Troy and I met mutually. We were part of 2 different Radical Creators is a group of Chicago Ideas, and I also met him at a space I ran called the Bronzeville Incubator, and we're doing similar work. And sometimes it just takes that olive branch to say, hey, I see you're doing great things for creatives. He runs an organization called Creative Cipher. It's a media-centered company that helps artists in media kind of elevate. They do a lot of accelerator programs. They produce a lot of live shows and television. And so I saw the work he was doing for artists in his community. Wanted to kind of come together and collab with BLACC and leverage what our two communities have already existed that we could do together. And so, yeah, Troy's a great guy. Unfortunately, he was not able to join me tonight, but I'm super excited about the energy we both have for BLACC.
That's great. So who has access to BLACC right now? Is it available or?
Yeah, it's available. We're in beta though. So we are selecting folks to join. It is a link that I believe I shared. People can definitely sign up. Beta testing means that we are limiting it to a specific amount, a specific quantity for now, just to test and make sure we have all of our ducks in a row, our T's crossed, our I's dotted, so that when we finally do launch and we get the funding to, create a full-fledged app that we want, that it's in a great place. And so, but yeah, people can go to weareblack.com to learn more about us and also to sign up to be one of our early testers.
Wonderful. And you guys launched last month, right?
I mean,
just so congratulations on that. First
Thank
of all,
you.
tell us, what will folks see when they open the app, and, are there any new features we should be looking out for?
Yeah. So when you yes, we launched on January 27th. So we're a couple days on our 1 month anniversary. When you open the app, it is a web app. So similar to how Facebook started, it is not something you go to an app store and download. It is a link, but you can add it directly to your home screen, just like an app. When you get there, you fill out this information that tells us about who you are and helps us connect you to the people that you might have similar interest in. And so you also are able to, at the bottom, field your resources. You can chat with people inside the app. You can also find members in different industries, and then your profile guides your organized journey. So you can save resources that you like under your profile, get back to them. You can favorite members that you might potentially want to work with in the future. So under your profile is where you can organize the things you find in the app, which I think is the coolest part. Sometimes as creatives, we're so busy, we're pouring ourselves into our work. We have a million things on our plate. And when we're scrolling through Instagram, we can't save something that seems cool or, that might be of interest to us later on down the line. Well, within BLACC, we are fielding those resources, and you can favorite them and save them so that you can get back to them later.
Well, all right, there you have it. Black Girl Magic. Chicago creatives, go check out the BLACC, not an app yet, but soon to be. Rachel, graphic designer and co-founder. Rachel, thank you so much for stopping by. Good luck.
Thank you so much.
All right, so this is the last week of Black History Month. We can't end this month without talking about two literary giants. Jennifer Keishin Armstrong and Zakiya Dalila Harris are the host of a new monthly podcast series called Dead Writers Drama. In the first episode that dropped earlier this month, our next guests go deep into the beef between two literary heavyweights, Langston Hughes and Zora Neale Hurston. So let's go ahead and dive in. I want to take this time right now to welcome to the show Jennifer and Zakiya. Let's welcome back Naira and Tiffany as well. Ladies, are you all with me? Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
Hey, Jennifer. Hey, Zakiya. How you guys doing?
Hi, everyone.
Wonderful. Well, welcome back, Naira and Tiffany. So, Jennifer, Zakiya, before we get the backstory on the beef between Zora and Langston, ladies, please, what did you learn about Zora and Langston in school, just growing up?
I mean, for me, gosh, Harlem Renaissance, I think, was the main buzzword that was thrown out. They're both huge in their field, and obviously Black writers whose work has lived on and on. But I didn't really learn about the nuances of their art or their complicated relationship with one another or their complicated relationship with their benefactor, Charlotte Osgood Mason, until probably college, and that was because I took a particular class on it. So the journey has been slowly accumulating, and this podcast just really took it to a whole new level.
Jennifer, what about you?
Yeah, same thing. What I'm actually picturing is like you'd have a page in your book that would be like Harlem Renaissance. And you'd write and you'd learn a couple things, and you'd read a poem from Langston, maybe a passage from Zora. You'd know their eyes were watching God. But that was kind of it. And I mean, I think something we're really trying to do with the podcast even is to really humanize these giants of literature. And it was so much fun to kind of dive into them as actual people. And it made them feel so much, I think, closer to like real human experience, knowing this and knowing about their friendship and their feud.
Okay, so and Naira, as a poet, you know, why is Langston Hughes an important figure in literature, in your own words?
Yeah, honestly, for me in high school, I went to a really white high school, and my like elementary school was fairly white as well. I'm from Beverly, so you can imagine. But Langston Hughes was one of the few Black writers that we learned about, so I really like clung to his work. Like as a young person that also likes to write, because we didn't even learn about Zora Neale Hurston at all in high school. I actually found her work on my own when I was younger. So yeah.
Wow. And so what makes, I'm sorry guys, just a few technical difficulties. We'll get right back to the questions real quick. Hold on. So what makes Zora an important figure, Tiffany?
Like when I first read Their Eyes Were Watching God in high school, for me, what really stood out with her was like language. Like I'd never seen anybody write in our dialect in the way that Zora Neale Hurston did, and like I felt seen because I talk like that. And you know, in comparison to like the other stuff that we had to read, like Jane Austen, Pride and Prejudice, or like F. Scott Fitzgerald and Great Gatsby and all of that stuff, like her work just stood out in ways that I wanted to learn more about. And then getting to college, I connected with her work even more because a lot of my peers who also were from Chicago talked about how I sound and how I sound country and how did I end up sounding that way. But on the west side where I'm from and like North Lawndale, a lot of people are from Mississippi, so we all sound like that. So I think like for me with Zora, like she really just opened the doors and taught like that lesson of the importance of being a reflection of like who you are and who your people are in the world that raised you, in ways that like school and like traditional media tries to take away from us and whitewash out of us to some respect. So we can't let patriarchy like erase our history and our dialect and the culture and love that comes from that. So Zora means the world to me. Like that was the first time I had seen someone write like that.
Yeah. And Zakiya, Langston and Zora were good friends for many years. Tell us what caused this rift between the two of them?
Yeah, I mean, so they were very good friends, would take road trips together, would talk about what it was like to be Black creatives living in the 20s, just trying to express themselves in ways that the old guard, the old Black guard specifically, didn't necessarily do, right? They were speaking vernacular, as Tiffany mentioned. But so they were both working together on Mulebone, which was a play that they set out to be a super big, they really wanted to be a commercial success. And I'll paraphrase, but basically their feud came from misunderstandings about, you know, whose idea was what, right? Like we've all, not all necessarily, but we, you know, collaborating with another artist can be very hard. Collaborating with another artist then, especially. So they were both working on this play together, and Zora Neale Hurston decided to kind of take the work and continue working on it herself. And her version of the play made it through the door, and Langston Hughes heard about it and felt a way, you know, as we might. And yeah, there was just a back and forth about who had come up with the play, who should be getting the credit. And things were stickier because of their benefactor, a white woman, Charlotte Osgood Mason, who I mentioned earlier. she was the puppeteer holding the strings, often giving them money in order to, create art, but she had her own standards for what their art should look like. And at this time as well, Langston and Charlotte Osgood Mason were breaking up in their own way because Langston Hughes decided he wanted to do his own thing and didn't want to be tied to her necessarily. But Zora Neale Hurston was still very much tied to her. So that was also adding to the beef. They're writing letters back and forth that were often intersecting and were not quite seeming to meet each other at the same time. There just seemed to be a lot of, in my opinion, and Jennifer, you can speak to this too, just misunderstanding and bad timing and bad communication. So just a few things,
Oh man, and to Jennifer and Zakiya, do they reconcile before their deaths? Jennifer, please.
No, it's so sad. That's the part that I think is the most heartbreaking in a way. In fact, even their autobiographies kind of warred with each other a little bit too, which is, in a lot of ways, their nearly last words to the world. And, Langston kind of sideswiped her in his autobiography, and then she just left him out of hers, but wrote an entire chapter about friendship. And specifically, kind of basically to leave him out of that. So it's too bad because I think they were such kindred spirits, obviously, in so many ways. And they really could not get past this feud that they had. So it's really too bad in that way.
Oh, wow. So when Zora passed, she was laid to rest in an unmarked grave. Writer Alice Walker got her a burial marker years later. Langston Hughes was memorialized properly. Jennifer and Zakiya, ladies, please, can you talk about why Zora wasn't appreciated toward the end of her life? Like, what happened there?
I mean, Zora Neale Hurston compared with, so Langston Hughes was definitely of his time and always very current and speaking to Black issues. Of course, The Negro Speaks of Rivers, I Too Sing America. He was always very much speaking to Black people and to Black problems, whereas Zora Neale Hurston very notably tended to stay away from speaking of bitterness towards white people. She very much did not go in the way that Langston went in. And, I definitely think that ostracized her a lot from the Black community, especially 30s, 40s, 50s, as like speaking out against injustices in a certain way with Richard Wright, of course, so many other Black writers, male writers especially, that was in vogue, for lack of a better term, and so important. But Zora Neale Hurston, on the other hand, felt much more interest in just uplifting Black people and not concerned about the white gaze and celebrating, African-American vernacular in her own way. And that was something that I found really interesting too, because now today, Black writers, Black creatives are always talking about that, right? Like, what is the best way to further the Black creative mind, the best way to start conversations? Like, should we be focused on calling out every single thing? Or even just calling out injustices, period? Or should we just be focusing on ourselves and moving up? Du Bois and I don't know why I'm looking out on his name, but yes, thank you. Sorry, it's been a day, but yeah. So I think that's partly why.
And every time I get around writers, y'all always make me feel inferior with my vocabulary in vogue. I don't. Anyways, Jennifer, please,
Sorry.
if there's anything Zakiya left out, please, Jennifer.
I mean, I would just add a dash of sexism is also why Zora was really sidelined. I mean, you make a really good point, though, Zakiya, about, her views were not in sync with like what most people thought they should be at the time. And I think they really, Black people in particular and Black male writers. And so I think they really kind of used that to like sideline her a little bit and dismiss her. And it seems like it took a while for her to fully come back into, after her death, into kind of being fully respected the way that she deserved to be and be in the canon. I think that took a really long time for all of these different reasons. And there's a clear difference in, we read their obituaries on our podcast, each one, and you can see the difference even in reading the obituaries, though. To the New York Times credit, the one thing is, right when she died, they said she died, alone and all of this stuff, and was in an unmarked grave. But, they did note right away that she had been kind of disrespected from, that time on. And I do think it took us a while, and like Oprah, really, to fully bring her back into like everyone knowing, including white people, who she was and everything that she did.
Yeah, and we're gonna get Tiffany's and Naira's thoughts on that as well. But we've got a question from Morgan, our actually co-founder, and ladies, Jennifer, Zakiya, you ladies are like the experts here, and she's wondering. She asked, wasn't Zora's funding also cut as well? Or are we making that up?
Zakiya, do you remember? I do think by the time she died, she was definitely not being bankrolled by Charlotte anymore. And I think Charlotte was either gone or done with both of them. And she really did die sort of penniless. I don't know if penniless might be pushing it, but she was not in good circumstances by the time she died.
Now, Tiffany and Naira, anything you ladies would like to add about just, how she was memorialized?
No, I mean, I think they said everything, to be honest. It's just wild, though, that she just kind of was discarded from literary history, Black literary history, throughout that whole time. And even when I think about school and like talking about the Harlem Renaissance and things like that, Langston Hughes is a name that stands out. You don't really, talk a lot about Zora Neale Hurston unless you're talking about the book, Their Eyes Are Watching God, or unless, you get to college, like I think Zakiya said, and like take classes on Black women in literature and things like that. So it's interesting because somehow men are always unscathed in all of these situations, and women are just casted off to the side if they don't fit into whatever mold is happening at that time. So it's interesting.
And Naira, we'll get back to you, but anything you'd like to add right now?
No, yeah, I agree with what y'all are saying. There's never as much grace for Black women when folks don't agree with things they say or their frames of mind. But with Black men, especially in the artist space, people are like, oh, well, we can separate their work from whatever they think outside of that. And we just aren't offered that much grace. So that breaks my heart. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh gosh, I feel like I owe y'all an apology on behalf of my gender right now, ladies. But moving on, Jennifer, Zakiya, we're so happy to have you guys here. Let's get more background on the podcast. So Jennifer, can you walk us through, just how the podcast came to be? Please, the floor is yours.
Absolutely. The American Writers Museum wanted to do this, and they have this list that they have put together of 100 important American writers, and they've worked really hard on this to make it current and diverse and all of those good things. And so they really wanted to use that list and kind of explore literature in a more exciting way, that isn't just like, here's, some biographical information, the end. So they came to me because I just have a relationship with them. I'm from the southwest suburbs of Chicago, and so I have done a number of book events there as an author. And they came to me and said, we want to do this. Can you find a co-host and kind of start to put this together? I've done some other podcasts. So that's how it happened. And we really wanted to kind of, as we're talking about, humanize these writers a little bit and give people a little more context to grab onto besides just the textbook stuff. So I reached out to Zakiya, and the magic started to happen.
Wonderful. And Zakiya, and really to Jennifer too, who are you ladies trying to reach with this podcast? You know, are there more Black and other people of color that you'll be featuring in the podcast? You know, and if so, would you be able to share with us who those will be, please, Zakiya?
Yeah, I mean, we're still very much in the early stages of the podcast. Our next episode is going to be on Ray Bradbury, who is from Waukegan, Illinois, which is where my dad is from, born and raised. That's my only tie to Chicago area. But yeah, no, I mean, so Ray Bradbury's next, and we still don't know what our final slate is going to be. But I mean, Ida B. Wells, as y'all were talking about before, is on the list. Phyllis Wheatley is on their 100 authors list. Charles Chestnut, like people, again, that I didn't learn about until I sought them out myself, like taking Black lit classes in college. So my hope is that we will reach college students beyond that, but also like young people who, like we're talking about, like we didn't learn about a lot of this stuff when we were younger. We had to seek it out. And, you know, I'm not that old, but podcasts were not that big when I was in high school. And my hope is that now things like this will reach younger people, especially young Black people who, you know, are not necessarily getting classes in these things, in these artists, and also just people who are curious about learning, you know, what kind of social media presence Langston Hughes and Zora might have from someone who is their biographer. I think, like Jennifer said, humanizing these writers in a way that's accessible and feels present is really what we're seeking to do with this podcast.
And yeah, I mean, you know, going back to Jennifer, if you want to add to this question, but I also want to ask, like, yeah, is that why this podcast is, you know, necessary? Is it important that we try and humanize some of these figures?
Yeah, I have always found that when I read a good biography, they're not all, you know, some of them I feel like it's like what you read in literature class and you're like, ugh, I have to slog through this thing. But like the biography of Zora and Langston that we read to prepare for this podcast, and, you know, anything, I know I once read a really great biography of Jack Kerouac and learned kind of what a screw up he was. And honestly, it made me feel so much better because it's like, especially as authors, we look at these people and they've been put on this pedestal in literature class. And it's honestly feels so much better for me to go like, okay, this guy was just trying his best too. And he happened to have a way with words as well, but it makes it feel more accessible, both as a reader and I think even like kids who might want to write. It's like, oh, they were just people. And now I can see that. And maybe I could be that person too someday.
I just want to add to that real quick if I can, because that's the biggest thing that I took away from listening to you all's podcast. And even from going to the American Writers Museum, which I love, like I could live there. But like, you know, when we're reading these books by these people, they're so revered. And when you're young and in high school and learning how to write, you're just like, oh, they wrote this stuff down straight out their mind and like they published it, you know? So it's so cool to like see the challenges that people went through, to see the disagreements that friends even go through in like creating something together like Zora Neale Hurston and Langston Hughes did. And these are things to like learn from so that, you know, you don't repeat these patterns and things like that again. Even learning that like F. Scott Fitzgerald and Hemingway was like beefing with each other. Like all of that type of stuff is interesting and helpful to younger generations, because a lot of that beef was just because Hemingway didn't like the romantic style that Fitzgerald was writing in. It wasn't like manly. So it's like ways to learn how to embrace new generations of thought and like style and everything too. So I applaud you all's podcast. It's a fun way to get people into
Thank you.
For sure.
Thank you. I love that.
Great. That's so great to hear. And Hemingway Fitzgerald is truly one of my favorite beats of all time. It's just pure like white guy ridiculousness and bravado, and it's wonderful.
And I want to get Naira, I want to get your thoughts, assuming that everybody on my panel has listened to the first episode, which was awesome, by the way, ladies. What was most surprising about what you heard on the first episode of the podcast, Naira?
What was most surprising? I think just like, first of all, the autobiography bit, I was laughing so hard because I was like, I had to pause it because just thinking the idea of them like shading each other, like we go on social media and we subtweet people. Imagine like subtweeting someone in a whole book, like how healthy you would be to read that someone like subbed you in a book. But yeah, Zoro was told for leaving him out entirely and then making that whole chapter about friendship. That's what was most interesting to me. Also to see how like, you know, like people always make it seem like when like for older folks it's like, oh, they're like above the drama that like we like the petty drama that we have with each other, but that's not true. People's being petty. People have been petty forever. But yeah, I thought that was interesting, but also just like humanizing them, right? Like those things being relatable. Also butting heads with people that you work in the same space as, having to make hard decisions, the issues with mixing like pleasure and friendship with work, all of that stuff was really interesting. So yeah, thank you guys for putting that together too.
Thank you. Thank you. It was so much fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I mean, Tiffany, listening from a listener's point of view, you know, what was surprising that you heard if we haven't talked about it already?
The thing that stood out to me, I was just like, wow, was Charlotte Osgood Mason and how controlling she was. Because I was like, it's one thing to be giving people money, you know, just be white and funding things. But she wanted to know what they was eating. She wanted to know when they went to the bathroom. Like,
psychopath.
What is going on? So that was crazy to me. And just eye-opening to if Black people just had their own money and didn't have to put up with this crazy stuff with these people, like we could really just be, you know, independently soaring. So I applaud them for dealing with her as long as they did. And then I think Zakiya mentioned this too, just going off of voices, but the bit about like them having to communicate with each other through letters and like imagining months or weeks or whatever going by and like having to go back and forth over letters about whatever it is you're working on and not being in a Google Doc, that immediacy, and how much communication can be lost in between like letters, or tone can be lost in between letters. Anything could be lost when you're like sending letters back and forth. The letter itself could be lost. Yeah. So that was really putting yourself back in that time and like trying to think about what they just day to day was going through, and being an artist is like crazy too.
Yeah, and you know, Naira, you had an interesting point. They're kind of like subtweeting each other in these pieces of literature, and like we have an interesting question. It's like if Langston and Zora were living today, where do you think they'd be arguing? Like, which social media platform would they be using? Would it be Twitter? Would it be Facebook? Like, like please, like.
Twitter.
I think Twitter. I'm seeing Twitter.
Definitely Twitter. Yeah.
It was like Tallahassee and Claire West arguing with each other briefly on Twitter.
Exactly.
Yeah, Twitter seems to have the right amount of pettiness for that. So and you know, and we just gotta ask Jennifer and Zakiya, you know, why did you ladies focus on Langston and Zora in the first episode? And, you know, what can we expect to see in the coming months? I heard maybe next month it'll be a Ray Bradbury episode, or you know.
Yeah, I'll let
please, ladies.
Jennifer, you want to take this one?
I think what actually happened was we just each picked some of the writers we were most interested in from that 100 list. And this is where we kind of landed. Partly it was it was also just that Yuval Taylor, who wrote the great book. I'm glad I get to shout him out because we forgot before, but Yuval Taylor, who wrote the great book about Zora and Langston, who we had on the podcast, you know, he had just been at the museum not that long ago doing an event with them. So they had this, you know, relationship, and they were like, oh my gosh, Zora and Langston would be great because we can do them together. And they had this very interesting, it's just an interesting story, as we can see from us talking about it and getting excited about it, right? So we knew this would be exactly the kind of thing that a podcast called Dead Writer Drama would want to talk about. And it just, everything worked perfectly. And they also just both have such, I think, continuing resonance. Like the fact that we can imagine them on Twitter tells you like that it feels really alive to us right now. And we just sort of ended up landing on that, and that made the most sense for us to do first. And I think we'll just continue in a similar vein from there, looking for those great stories, looking for the good drama, looking for the interesting stuff that we can tell you that you didn't learn in school.
I just want to jump in real quick. I don't know if like Lorraine Hansberry had a beef with anybody, but could y'all do Lorraine Hansberry? Like,
doesn't have to be beefs. Doesn't have to all be beefs, you know. Okay. It could be other interests. I don't think Ray Bradbury had any beefs, but we'll be talking about things like his freedom of expression, activism, his tangles with McCarthyism, that sort of thing. So there can be a number of kinds of drama that we're talking about.
Lorraine Hansberry and James Baldwin and the FBI.
Yes. Oh, James Baldwin is on the list, and I think we already talked about it, so
definitely.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, James.
For sure, Lorraine Hansberry.
Thanks. No, we're all good. Zakiya, any last words? I mean, anything we can expect to see in the coming months? Did you want to add anything?
No, I mean, I think Jennifer really put it well. I'm a true crime fanatic, so like I love stories that kind of pull at a fabric that you wouldn't necessarily have seen before, and then you kind of pull it back. And so, yeah, that's what we're looking to do, I think. I mean, with Zora and Langston, again, like even though I sought them out in college, this podcast made them larger than life for me and hopefully for all the listeners. So that's really what we want to do, is just bring all of these writers to life, pick at one or two, three aspects, one particular time in which they're living, and just go with it and keep it fun.
Most definitely. And everybody out there listening, make sure you guys check out the Dead Writer Drama podcast. I want to thank my guest, this beautiful panel, for joining me today. Ladies, please tell the people where they can find you guys online. Naira, we'll start with you.
Yeah, my Instagram is naira.bills. And my Twitter is super Naira.
All right, wonderful. Tiff, what about you? Where can they keep up with you?
Just follow us on the Tribe, y'all. The Tribe with 2eyes.com. That's where I'm at.
You already know. And my wonderful last guest of the day, Zakiya and Jennifer. Jennifer, where can they find you guys?
JenniferKArmstrong.com is me, and I'm JMK Armstrong on Twitter, and we are Dead Writers Drama on Twitter as well. I'll let Zakiya do her own.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and my website is ZakiyaDalilaHarris.com. All of those, just my name. And my Twitter is Zakiya_Harris, because I did not make a Twitter fast enough with my middle name. So
most definitely. Yeah, I think Delila's taken online. So but thanks so much to my wonderful panel, Naira, Tiffany, Jennifer, and Zakiya. Thank you so much, ladies. Enjoy the rest of your night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice chatting with you all.
Take care. Peace. Stay safe.
Bye.
Yeah, hopefully you ladies will be able to enjoy some nice weather wherever you are. Here in Chicago, we're going to enjoy our 40 degrees. And that's our show, guys. Thank you to our guests once again, Naira, Tiffany, Jennifer, Zakiya, and Rachel. And if you have any questions about the show or want to reach out to us, go ahead and hit us up at connect@thetribe.com. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to our YouTube page and hit the little bell. That's a notification bell. You get to know whenever the Tribe or your boy Rom J goes live. And you can find me on Twitter at the @RomJ_ and on Instagram at @RomJ_TV. I'll see you guys next week. Same time, same place. It's your boy Rom J and the Tribe signing out. Peace.